want my mind to be able to, that's why. If somebody brings
Yaro. Jonanga. Jonanga.
Huko osile kojo.
Meko sio popular.
Akwaba. Ibi abako. Akwaba. Chale fitano pa. Jose. Yeah, slow. I know, but it has reduced. What's it? Nkobi, what's it?
Maybe I run the content that Mammy had them Catalans. Who's that? They let on it here. Oh, yeah. Daddy, now who the same to my net?
Okay.
Ready to a Catalan. But they don't know that's one. There's a one, and yet I'm not seeing. Because we do cry nephew. That's all.
It is still.
I mean, man, walk out.
My new walker. Okay.
That's a honey. That also is so good and then. That's also when you are appointing a manager. You're back with you, manager. But you want to take a seat. Yahana would never buy a man.
Wow. Check for me at the back. There is water there. I bought 2 CDs water. I don't know. Give me one, eh?
أشهد أن محمد رسول الله No sharp.
Claro. A mí fue bueno. Mino que. Ay. Tapi na kai. Nanti namanya no. Saya dah ambil sekarang nama dia apa dah? Ni sama berpuluh sama mau. Apa nani ambil beli? Nama be Maya dan mabe berubi. Mabe mami sister bi.
Good evening.
Ebe no.
Apa?
Apa?
Apa ya, Papa?
Suang oh sende wai pimu. Sama mental.
Why?
Mental in account. that one. Or blow even. Or blow.
Let me be something with your friends. Oh, Mariam.
Hey, Mariam, oh, I never want.
Mariam.
Say, wait a minute, with the my brother money.
Okay, that's right. Charlie, where you 6, where you mix and Kassan, why are they? It's like sometimes your brain functions very well, sometimes it circuit. It fluctuates.
Yeah, one I can tell.
Oh, forget it.
Yeah, they say they will come with the machete and the me. They say,
Oh, forget it.
yeah, no, I know the only day don't prepare, but then they
Forget. Last time I don't go there, forget.
who's in any other. I'm a baby. Hey, we don't want. This is me. Put in the business. I'm going to make some, but me, yes, take a idea, may yes, forget.
You have a papa.
That's beautiful.
Eden dépôt. Book dépôt. Book auto dem.
La otra cosa, no me voy a tomar nada más.
internet, like
Ah.
the data feed, I just subscribe again.
Oh.
And then you have about 35.
And then how you put that data with Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I'll get it, but still, we got to know. That's why we need to get it in bulk.
That's how we see it.
Because of sharing, because of sharing. Yeah, my time is against me. So when I'm monetizing, definitely I'm not looking at it because I can take even 1 month without going out and without getting it. See, like, gather,
So you now I'm on your way.
Because it was not all the time projects come, and sometimes when it's come, we give that one, it's really small. And it's not
Mas
made
esse é o
alone.
muito mal.
Oh,
Né?
they will-
Essa é a dinheiro, é uma coisa. O grupo de também faz para mim.
Oh, Charlie, I'm telling you.
You know, I'm your man. For your son, I bet. Who's that? I think some
Honestly, I don't know whether she has finished cooking.
Well, on wine. So on wine that was me, but this was a year long time. Life, you see me. Me life, I enter me. You are put to so. Let me take care of my minion and me fast eat.
Because you saw why.
Say they come here, say.
Cool. Let me go and bring my coat and also bring my cool cap. I beg, pass me those the black clothes and black clothes. I want to take my shower.
Yes, now after that, Tony Mukawan.
I'm on for it. I'm on for it. Like, I'm better. Oh, you too. I've got one there.
I've got one connection. I'm the most.
Oh, that is a media. Me, say, me, fact, my movie and chat. I don't wish to try and say,
1 hour. I did.
Yeah, sir. Come on, boy. Rồi nhà hàng mình nu uyan o hopoi ninchemu kwa ninchemu e hapo ninchemu hapo kwa hapo
Enter to
Olha só style minha friend saying. Ah, yanko. I like that style. style your friend is saying. Yanko. I like that style. Long time. Yeah, no, go ahead. Slide. You can go ahead. Talk.
It's part of the business.
Yeah. Go ahead. I would.
See the man. But the man will now go do the police for him. You arrived yesterday. Even while they go meet and buy, I go, he remove, he come up for house. But I take the police bring and they make me show back. You see, make I come back. And the man will, I take the boom give him. Into say he gets rich. Like I have, he didn't do this. Okay, I do and do. You cannot do it. You see the boom I take boom give him.
That one. It's a privacy.
Okay.
No,
Yeah, man,
I
don't
want
why.
you to see the reality. I know they talk lies. The way I did here right now, since morning. Now I want to take the studio where now I want to take you go. No, if the man is studio be that.
Okay.
You just go. You see, he bought this palongo.
Yeah, nice, bro.
Yeah, this palongo too, and my phone go. The thing is, this dundum one set and this two palongo one way for sending. This is the studio we record. The studio day for Dodoa.
Oh, okay.
You see the video?
Yeah.
You see the way I take some?
Yeah.
You see the
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. Nice.
So this is the two palangolo and this one set way back. But I say when you
Nice.
reach the ceremony.
They're nice, man.
Yeah, it remains one set there. So I take one set.
go by.
And that set way people
You see
I don't
your people there, they want boom. You
yeah,
understand?
yeah, but the price with me I give small price. But them the way they go increase price like this want to get kabari.
Yeah, they won't get kabari than the price of the thing.
So that place where I want to take you go set, you go get big business and you go get store with us. The man right now he dey go do work things where we go store in America or but it looks
we need studio.
yeah, the studio is there. I already started recording. I've been recording. I already record 7 songs.
Anytime you're ready, I'm available.
You understand?
Yeah, you have my number anytime. Just
Yeah.
call, let me know.
I'll call you. Okay?
Sure.
Because of nowadays, I don't have money. For me to move to Kasua, to do
Okay, you
Dua.
stay at Kaswa.
Yeah, I stay at Kasua.
It's fine.
So you know what you do Dua, but I go read the place they call
Adenta.
no, they call the
Or you or Foster Johnson.
no, they call the Katamanso.
Katamanso.
If you read Katamanso, the taxi rank there. You take taxi, go to the Green Hill,
Okay.
the estate there. If you there with the studio there.
It's fine.
You see, Katamanso. Hey, so come you know all those areas. You be mafia.
No, my uncle did that.
Ah.
My uncle has some.
They own gun, they own Accra, they are Oyega, Oyenkrani. They are the owner of
Me,
Accra.
no, for me going there, me, I don't know a place called Katamanso or this, that. You the guy.
Katamanso, I come preschool. I come preschool, I go work for them.
But I mean now, then the time we did it, that place with Busu. Because
Yeah,
now
now
the
it's
place
like
with
developed.
it's there with they are developing.
This Punya or something. that time about yeah. After now some might be I think he come from America where they doing work. So we go do Kareem, we go do the work. We did that way there. They said the rain they take people no. That was 2015.
This year no.
2015. 2015, some place they call out Kokompe.
That's about 11 years.
This boy they be mafias.
Me I go work for a place.
About 11 years ago.
Jankama. Oh, Jankama in my area.
Yeah, I work for them. Some might be there, where might be they call out Isaac.
Yeah, now you know who now they doing job?
No.
You know that man way now they just we follow them here way in this one, okay, court. This is some smallest guy black like that.
Yeah.
He didn't they do work.
Oh, okay.
That man. But the man till he die. But I'm picking the way they take over the job. I don't know, maybe the English. Hey, Charlie, you know everywhere. I breathe here, me as well everywhere. Obri? No, fuck. Everywhere.
A brief one thing. You know a brief one thing.
Only what me I like the language there. This is Obri, my language.
What's their own language?
They were, some of them were once, you know. Once combined.
Yeah. Yes. They are very good.
Sometimes they even some they Burkina there, they don't fit camp. Yeah, but they come reside Burkina before they move in. Some of them.
You see, this one will be documentary.
Yeah.
That's why I say in Ghana, if you say move foreigners, everybody be foreigner in Ghana. You go here say this one is if you Ashanti, this one is Kiabi. Ashanti they claim say they be Mosi. Ashanti claim.
What the thing is, the reason why we say this one, everybody have now, we have what
We have insect.
That Libana or Kokawi, Libano, no, yeah, but the police were Muslim. Now, we did the pattern of cancer. See now or Smith. I found one or passing it. enti prophet Ben enti mo hunu sɛ somo a nyɛ wuri kura de sɛ prayer enti
Mitonko nasomena yo adiamu yenina nasomena yo Your style, your friend say. Yanko. read the killer boy. Was it as no? Sasa ni afanye nini? Yanko. Yes, sema. Ose ode you. Wait, and Thursday. I'll give it to Sunday. Every day you have. Not to Sunday over. Once you are now willing to show me, over who say, so back capture. Send me your video. Oh, even if I antelope skin, is any in a I like that style. If it's a small get it's a food drum. Charlie, let me go and buy food, huh? any drama. Charlie. Bra. Ana, Ube koto udi.
Carry on, top one.
It's better. We have 5 cities. It's nice, modern.
But it's style your friend saying. Yanko. I like that style.
Mecca Defense Pact with Saudi Arabia and Turkey. Thousands of demonstrators have protested outside the Indonesian parliament in Jakarta, demanding harsher penalties for corrupt officials. The demonstrations were held a year after a wave of anti-government protests across Indonesia in which 10 people were killed. The Canadian actor Peter Cullen, who voiced Optimus Prime in Transformers and Eeyore in the Winnie the Pooh franchise, has died. He was 85. Rory Gallimore has this report.
I am Optimus Prime.
From an extraterrestrial, heavily armed robot able to reconfigure itself into a truck, to a depressed donkey.
Not much of a house.
Yeah, my brother, welcome.
Just right for
Job
not
time, job
much
time.
of a donkey.
Peter Cullen's deep, soothing voice brought life to characters loved by children worldwide for decades. His vocal versatility was behind a wide range of other roles, but Cullen was best known for Optimus Prime. He said the Transformers' measured, low-pitched tone was inspired by his older brother, a decorated Vietnam War veteran, who told him a real hero was strong enough to be gentle. As thanks for that advice, Cullen always gave his brother a cut of his wages from the role.
BBC News.
Come down.
Hello, welcome to the programme. This is NewsHour from the BBC World Service. I'm Paul Henley. We're coming to you live from London. Coming up a bit later, the Bosnian Serb former military leader Ratko Mladic has died in prison. At the age of 84, he was serving a life sentence for crimes against humanity. We'll hear from a journalist who covered Mladic's trial and from a survivor of the Srebrenica massacre for which Mladic was convicted. Plus, a bit later on, I get a lesson in French cheese. What am I cutting into?
You are cutting into the Beaufort Chalet d'Alpage, and it's August 2020. Oh, gosh.
I broke the knife, but it's only a wooden knife, don't worry. A changing climate is causing controversy in the world of French food classification in about 20 minutes' time. First on the programme, at least 389 people have died and around 1,000 are missing after flash floods swept through Nepal. Neighbouring Tibet is also badly affected, though facts about what happened there are harder to come by. In Nepal, emergency workers and hundreds of soldiers are searching through mud and debris for survivors. The authorities used helicopters to search for them and to drop emergency supplies. Thousands of people cut off in towns and in valleys in the wake of the disaster, which swept down a route widely used by trekkers and pilgrims linking Kathmandu with Lhasa in Tibet. Drone footage from one district of Nepal showed huge levels of destruction after ice, mud and rock collapsed into a mountain river, triggering a catastrophic flash flood. The BBC's Azadeh Moshiri sent this report from Trishuli in central Nepal.
Villagers pick through what is left of their homes, their livelihoods.
Oh my God,
Yesterday's chaos, caused by construction workers trying to escape the onslaught, sweeping away everything in its path.
There are families of those who are missing who are gathering, who've been waiting for any information they can find. We just spoke to one woman who spoke to her husband at 8:30 in the morning yesterday and hasn't heard from him since. She's desperate to find information.
Casualty figures continue to rise. Deepak and Madhura were returning to Texas from a pilgrimage. Their daughters waiting for any news.
We all immediately started calling our parents. No answer. And then we both received an email from the Isha Foundation saying that the floods had hit and that our parents were in a group at the immigration office on the China border with Nepal that had been impacted by the flood. It's only been one day, but it has felt like much longer. I think we're just leaning on each other and our family.
Hundreds caught in the disaster were pilgrims and trekkers who had travelled to the region for the upcoming full moon festival. Helicopters make journeys back and forth from the capital, racing to save lives, dropping supplies to others who were able to climb up away from the flooding. While there are warnings, still there is hope. As a frantic search for survivors enters another day.
Azadeh Moshiri reporting from central Nepal. Pramod Pudel lives in Uckfield in the southeast of England. He is on his way to Nepal to search for his wife, his parents, his brother and his uncle, none of whom he's heard from since this disaster struck the area where they live.
My village is right next to the Betrauti village. It's opposite to Betrauti. It's called Sole Bazaar, where there is a lovely, beautiful village before. Now it's all swept away and there is nothing left, literally nothing. Now it's like a desert of mud and soil. So where my family used to live, like my mom, my dad, my wife and everyone used to live, there's nothing there. I tried the mobile number, but obviously mobile's not working. I tried to talk to his family and stuff. It's not working. So, yeah, I was married like 2 months ago. So I'm flying there about 8 o'clock today. I think it's going to be extremely difficult. I think there is about 10 kilometers of no road, so we're going to have to walk through the forest and stuff. That's going to be difficult, but my dad is on his own, so I'm going to have to go and see him.
Pramod Pudel, who is on his way to Nepal to search for his family. Whereas journalists in Nepal are free to gather eyewitness accounts and up-to-date information about the disaster, things are very different across the border in Tibet, because there, China is in control. Videos taken by Tibetans of a mudslide engulfing a border crossing in Girong County were quickly censored on Chinese social media, and the authorities have provided no details about where exactly has been affected. Coverage is focused instead on the official rescue effort. Ryan Fioresi in Washington, D.C. is Executive Director of the International Campaign for Tibet. I asked him for the latest he'd heard from there.
On the Tibet side of the border and of this unfolding disaster, the information has been very limited and tightly controlled. We've been in contact with sources on the ground, and what they tell us is that the picture is far worse than what is being officially reported in official Chinese media. So Chinese state media has so far confirmed only 3 casualties. Our sources say the actual death toll is much higher. According to one of our sources stationed right at the Kirong border there in Kirong County, a major flood completely destroyed Tibetan shops, restaurants, and tea houses near the Kirong border crossing, causing numerous casualties. However, Chinese authorities have relocated the local residents. They barred people from entering the flooded disaster area and completely withheld on-the-ground news from being released. So this, points to a broader issue with the reporting on the Tibet side of the border. State media coverage has focused almost entirely on leadership directives from President Xi and official rescue deployments, with virtually nothing about what Tibetan families and villages in Kirong County, which is home to roughly 5,000 to 6,000 people, are actually going through.
A representative of the Chinese government is due to visit the area. Presumably, that visit will be for political capital, will it, first and foremost?
Correct. It will be to, I think, solidify and further advance official narratives around the disaster relief efforts, which, as I mentioned, have been very tightly controlled by the Chinese Communist Party propaganda apparatus. I believe President Xi is sending his premier Li Qiang to tour the area and disaster relief efforts. But I think, to your point, this is emblematic of Chinese government responses, where all information is funneled through official channels, and there's no opportunities for independent journalists, for local communities, or international relief organizations to get access and to report about the true story that's unfolding on the ground.
Is it the case that local people are afraid to share information, even if they can? And if so, why?
Yes, certainly there is a pervasive culture of fear and ultimately self-censorship. Broadly speaking, Tibetans face interrogation, detention, or imprisonment simply for sending photos, videos, or information abroad or speaking with foreign media. On top of that, in this instance, we have direct evidence from sources that Chinese authorities are already deleting first-hand footage and accounts as soon as they are uploaded to Chinese social media of the devastation in Kirong County.
How could strict censorship of information in Tibet hamper any rescue operation?
Chinese state media is reporting a large, highly visible official rescue operation, and we have to acknowledge that China has indeed grown their disaster relief capacity over the years in terms of mobilizing rescue workers, military units, and equipment at scale. The problem, to your question, is we cannot verify the efficacy of these disaster relief efforts. There's no independent access to assess whether all affected communities are being reached, and no transparent casualty accounting. We also know, looking at a prior example of the Dingri earthquake in Tibet in January 2025, that authorities restricted Tibetans' own grassroots relief efforts through checkpoints, vehicle permits, harassment of local communities, and blocked international rescue teams and assistance entirely. Our concern is that the same pattern is unfolding now in Kirong County on the Tibet side of the border.
That was Ryan Fioresi in Washington, D.C. He's head of the International Campaign for Tibet. Europe's football governing body, UEFA, is preparing to take legal action in the US against its worldwide equivalent, FIFA, and its president, Gianni Infantino, over his plan to sell off stakes in the World Cup. The plan's now been abandoned, and UEFA's threat to boycott international competitions has also been dropped, but a deep-seated resentment remains. I asked the BBC's football issues correspondent, Dale Johnson, what was behind the latest UEFA challenge.
Well, this is basically a follow-up move from the legal threat from a few weeks ago, which said that FIFA should not destroy any type of documentation about this FIFA Forward enterprise plan. Now, UEFA have done some more investigations of their own, and they believe there is now a case to answer about the way this was put together. And they're trying to create as much pressure as possible to get this into the open, to have an independent review, and not allow FIFA's management board just to look into this themselves and try and create a whitewash where they say we're going to change the way we do things, but not actually open themselves up to find out what went wrong, how.
The plan isn't going ahead. On the face of it, UEFA got what they wanted. It's beginning to seem like a personal case against Infantino, is it?
I think it's how possible this proposal, as you say, is no longer going to go ahead. The bottom line is that UEFA and other confederations as well, they do not want Gianni Infantino to continue in the job, so they are trying to find ways to get him to be removed. Because they realise that if it gets to the FIFA presidential election next March, there is the chance that he's going to win, and then football continues in what is essentially a state of paralysis, where it's one side fighting against the other.
What does it mean exactly, a state of paralysis? Where does this leave world football now?
Well, the issue is, if you look at the FIFA Council, you've basically got that split virtually down the middle in terms of 18 in favour of Infantino and 18 against. So how can you get anything done effectively when that is the position? And even when you look at world football, again, it seems to be almost down the middle. So even if Infantino does win that election next year, say he gets 111 votes and it's 100 to the other opponent, and how is that a mandate to go forward and take football with unity and create the finances to give the global game, which is what the FIFA president's supposed to do? And really, what we're facing right now is a situation whereby nobody wants Infantino on one side, and the other side have been given so many riches by Infantino through the investment plans that FIFA do, but they don't want to see anybody else come in, and they don't see any other option than Infantino, who has given them all these basic gifts of money to fund their football projects.
It sounds like this could go on for quite a long time, this legal dispute, could it?
Well, it could, yes, and like I say, the end game at the moment seems to be next March for that FIFA presidential election, because they're just trying to find a way to get him out before then, and this legal campaign seems to be the next step in that.
Dale Johnson reporting. This is the BBC World Service and NewsHour. Coming up, why the far-right Alternative für Deutschland party wants to cut public funding for art it sees as anti-German.
Der Zweite Weltkrieg geht uns nichts mehr an.
The Second World War has nothing to do with us anymore. That's gone. We have to look out for ourselves, for our times, finally becoming the German people we once were, the land of poets and thinkers.
The news headlines: rescuers are looking for survivors after a massive flash flood on the Nepal-Tibet border that killed at least 350 people. And the Bosnian Serb commando Ratko Mladic, who oversaw the worst atrocities in Europe since the Second World War, is dead. More on him later. I'm Paul Henley with NewsHour, live from the BBC. A crime epidemic is affecting large parts of the northwest of Nigeria, with armed gangs on motorbikes raiding towns and carrying out mass abductions. Analysis by the BBC of attacks recorded by a monitoring group shows the problem is getting worse. Incidents between January and June this year were up 78% on the same time last year. The World Service's Yemisi Adegoke sent this report from Zamfara, one of the area's worst hit.
Shots ring out as gunmen on motorbikes ride into a village in northwest Nigeria. This is the sound of Nigeria's bandit crisis. It's seen hundreds of thousands flee their homes, people kidnapped and murdered, and parents too scared to send their children to school. The military is still struggling to contain the crisis, which is now threatening to spread from the country's northwest to other areas. Zamfara is one of the states worst affected by the bandit crisis. With no airport, the only way to get in is by road. Escorted by the military because there have been some attacks in the surrounding villages. Security personnel have been killed in this area. It's a sense that just kind of want to make it past this zone. In the state capital, Gusau, we meet some of the 800,000 people across the northwest who fled their homes. Many of them are escaping bandit violence. Fatima breaks down as she recalls how her village was attacked. Her husband was killed, along with 6 of his brothers. They opened fire without a care in the world. They started shooting indiscriminately. If you run into a room, they set the room on fire. If you come out and start running, they shoot you. What's left of Fatima's family now lives in a makeshift camp on the edge of the city. While they now have some protection, she says they find it difficult to even pay for food. Sat on a motorbike by the side of the street with an assault rifle in his lap, we meet one of the men authorities are turning to help combat the bandit problem. With the security forces struggling to cope, fighters are being hired from local communities to help support the army and police.
Let them understand that when they attack a place, they can kill, but they can also be killed. When we get told that the bandits are out, we try to get to where they are going before they arrive. We try our best, and with God's help, we are successful in chasing them away.
But there are concerns that arming more people could lead to a spiral of violence that authorities can't contain. This is Malik Samuel from Good Governance Africa.
How do you control them? At the end of the crisis, how are you able to disarm them, right? So but if you look at the issues in the Northwest, many of these communities don't have protection from the state. So what are they supposed to do?
Authorities say they're taking the fight to the bandits. 28,000 new soldiers are being recruited, and President Bola Tinubu announced a record $4 billion for defense and security in the latest budget.
To bandits, kidnappers, and sponsors of terror surrender or face the full force of the Nigerian state.
But in the northwest, the number of bandit attacks is continuing to rise. The return to normality that Fatima and her family in Zamfara desperately crave seems a distant possibility.
We had peace, we had money. Now everything has changed. We have become beggars.
That report from Yemisi Adegoke in the northwest of Nigeria. France is notoriously strict in its protection of locally produced food and wine, but recent heat waves have forced the authorities there to relax some of the rules on the production of certain famous types of cheese.
Il est temps de savourer le comté.
Prized products such as Beaufort, made in the Alps, and Comté from the neighbouring Jura Mountains, and featured in that advert, currently face exacting controls on what the cows that supply the milk for the cheese can eat. The problem is some of their traditional food hasn't existed this year because it's been too hot, even in the high mountains. Patricia Michelson is very well versed in those French rules. She is founder of a small chain of high-end cheese shops here in London called La Fromagerie, and one of the products affected is the signature cheese of her business from when she set it up 35 years ago, Beaufort Chalet d'Alpage. She came into NewsHour studio armed with some cheese, and I asked her why this particular one was so prized.
They're all prized in their own way because they are very specific styles of cheese and very specific breeds of herds. But the Beaufort Chalet d'Arpage is from the Maurienne mountain area, which is very small. If you go skiing, it's Courchevel and Meribel and places like that. And in the summer, it's called transhumance. The herds travel from the valleys up to the higher pastures, the alpine pastures, which are wild. They're untouched.
And if those cows are in the southern region of those mountains on the French-Swiss border, then their cheese was particularly affected because that was the driest area,
yes,
right?
that was particularly, well, over the last couple of years we found it. Last year we had the same thing as well. We had calls from the cheesemakers saying that there was depleted cheese this year because they take a year to mature, remember?
So it's the wild, high alpine pastures that make the particular flavour. Tell me, if I take a knife and a fork to this cheese here, which is a big triangle, that looks like Comté.
No.
What am I cutting into?
You are cutting into the Beaufort Chalet d'Arpage, and it's August 2020. Oh gosh!
I broke the knife, but it's only a wooden knife. Don't worry.
It's August 2024.
Right, and I'm going to cut you a piece as well, and we can both taste it at the same time.
Yeah.
You'll be better at describing what it tastes like.
Yeah.
While I take
Well,
a bite.
first, you give it a little sniff, like a fine wine, because it will have this wonderful sense of cheese, but fruit.
Strong smell.
Strong, fruity smell to it. What's so lovely about it? It's got this sweet fruitiness to it. It's got layers of flavour.
People describe it as nutty. Is that
It's
right?
nutty, yes, as well, but it's fruity. And you can taste sort of the pasture in it, the greenness of it.
So, say the French government relaxes the rules and brings in, I don't know, hay from Normandy to feed the hungry cows.
That's not going to happen.
No?
What will happen is that they will start producing extra feed for them on the farm. The relaxed rule is that they are going to give them this extra feed of hay because the pasture isn't there.
And will you be carefully watching for a change in next year's delivery of cheeses?
Absolutely.
It sounds like it's a very slight relaxation of this appellation d'origine protégée, which it's not going to threaten the authenticity of the product.
Well, it is in a way because the recipe is going to be changed. It's not going to be solely on an alpine pasture that's untouched.
Would you say that climate change was becoming a threat to French cheese as we know it?
It's becoming a threat to everything that has a tradition and a season and a way of being made. Yes, of course it is.
That was Patricia Michelson, Fromagière Extraordinaire. This is the BBC World Service and News Hour.
This is the BBC World Service, and Bola Masuro is meeting the nomadic herders blending centuries-old ways with 21st century tech.
Across Africa's drylands, 250 million pastoralists feed 500 million people.
We are nature and nature is us.
Their animals sustain the continent's great cities, even as the land around them grows more unpredictable through climate change.
We can spend up to a week looking for pasture.
Or armed conflict that turns ancient herding routes into deadly battlegrounds. I'll be telling the story of how they are drawing on generations of knowledge and new digital tools to maintain their way of life.
The satellite is acting as a third eye to see what they can see beyond the normal eyes.
Shepherd's Eye in the Sky. To listen, search BBC The Documentary online or on the BBC World Service app.
Still to come here on NewsHour, the death of Ratko Mladic and how he'll be remembered in Serbia and beyond. Why it's taken 25 years to set a trial date for the main suspect in the 9/11 attacks. And the far-right AFD's idea of German patriotism and why it might hold sway in some upcoming regional elections, all after the news.
BBC News with Sue Montgomery. Officials in Nepal and Tibet have warned of another potential disaster after Wednesday's catastrophic flash floods. There are fears that a lake that's formed high in the mountains could overflow, causing further destruction. Nearly 400 bodies have been recovered so far. The convicted war criminal Ratko Mladic has died in a UN prison hospital, aged 84. The former Bosnian Serb military leader was serving a life sentence in The Hague for genocide and crimes against humanity. European football's governing body is preparing a criminal complaint against the FIFA president Gianni Infantino. UEFA says Mr. Infantino tried to enrich himself and private investors through his failed plan to sell off stakes in tournaments. 100 tech firms are calling on countries and organizations to strengthen their cyber defenses against artificial intelligence before it's too late. The companies say cyber attacks enabled by AI will become more widespread within months. A Norwegian-based rights group says Iran has executed more than 500 people this year, with a surge in hangings in recent days. Iran Human Rights says almost 30 were connected to January's anti-government protests. President Trump has signed an executive order to rename Lake Ontario, which borders Canada, as Lake America. Police in Zambia say the opposition leader who came second in this month's disputed election has been detained over allegations of treason. Brian Mundubile denies government accusations his party was plotting insurrection. People living near the childhood home in London of David Bowie have objected to plans to turn it into a tourist attraction, raising concerns about high visitor numbers.
Welcome back to NewsHour. The Japanese avant-garde artist Yayoi Kusama has died at the age of 97. If the name doesn't immediately ring a bell, then Kusama herself and her work might. With her bright red wig and spotted outfits, she was pretty recognizable, and those dots figured prominently in her work. She was sometimes called the polka dot queen. Extravagantly mirrored rooms and decorated pumpkin sculptures also brought her global fame and huge commercial success. Yayoi Kusama spoke to the BBC in 2012 when the Tate Modern here in London put on a big retrospective of her work. She was asked about the dots and what they meant to her.
Please ask that to my hand. I've drawn lots of dots since I was a child and covered my fashion and my notebooks with dots. Dots are a symbol of the world, the cosmos. The earth is a dot. The moon, the sun, the stars are all made up of dots. You and me, we are dots.
Her work returned to the Tate Modern in 2021. Katie Wan was co-curator of that exhibition, and she told this programme's James Menendez more about Kusama.
She had a practice that spanned painting, drawing, poetry, performance, and I think for most people who are aware of her, they probably have come to know her through her installation environments, the most famous of which were called her infinity mirror rooms. And these were enclosed spaces, and because the walls of the space are mirrored, it creates this illusion of infinite space. And she would often play around, experiment with different objects, including soft sculpture, lights that would flicker at the pace of a heartbeat, and you would just feel like you're utterly transformed into a different world.
When she was in New York, she struggled to make a name for herself, as I understand it. But then later on, 30, 40 years ago, her career suddenly took off. What do you think changed?
There was a greater appreciation of global art practices. I think also audiences, museums were more ready to have the conversations around mental health. Her vision was completely crowded with dots. She was hypersensitive to her surroundings. And maybe the fact that Kusama was so open to talking about this earlier on in her career made her a bit of an outlier in the art world. And so it's really the art world and the rest of the world has taken all this time to catch up to her.
Did she enjoy being as famous as she was in her later life?
I think she did enjoy it. I know from her studio, we were always in a constant dialogue about press, keeping them updated on the reviews. So I think she did take great pleasure knowing that audiences revered her, enjoyed her work, which was in such contrast to the experience that she'd had in the earlier part of her career.
And she herself became
an icon, didn't she?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one might say she was kind of self-promoting from the very beginning of her career. I think there's a discomfort now about how much to bring in the biographical when we're talking about an artist's work, but with Kusama, it was inseparable.
Katie Wang, curator of international art at the Tate Modern Gallery here in London. You're listening to NewsHour from the BBC. I'm Paul Henley. Now, Ratko Mladic, the former military leader of the Bosnian Serbs, who was given a life sentence for crimes against humanity, has died in prison at the age of 84, often called the Butcher of Bosnia. Mladic was imprisoned in The Hague for genocide committed during the Bosnian War of the 1990s. This is audio of him ordering the bombardment of Muslim parts of the city of Sarajevo during the war.
General Mladic here shot the presidency and the parliament. Shoot at slow intervals till I order you to stop. Understood. Target Muslim neighborhoods, not many Serbs live there. Yes. Shell them till they are on the edge of madness.
Mladic was convicted of genocide also over the Srebrenica massacre, the killing of 8,000 Muslim men and boys at the height of the war in July 1995. Hassan Hassanovic is a survivor of that massacre. He works now at the Srebrenica Memorial Center, and he gave NewsHour his reaction to Mladic's death.
For me, the death of Ratko Mladic does not bring closure, because the people who were killed in Srebrenica cannot come back. I was 19 when I was forced to flee Srebrenica, and I lost my twin brother, my father, and many family members. So when I heard that Ratko Mladic has died, I do not think first about his death. I think about the lives he and his forces destroyed. What matters to me is that he died having been convicted of genocide and other crimes. The judgment established what happened in Srebrenica and throughout Bosnia and Herzegovina. And his death cannot erase that historical and judicial truth. So for me, the real question now is not how we remember him, but how we remember the people he tried to erase. 8,000 men and boys were murdered in Srebrenica, so their lives matter, and they have to be remembered, and they have to be in the center of the historical memory.
The conviction came, as we said, in 2017, after many years in which Ratko Mladic was on the run. But even when it came, am I right in thinking that many survivors of Srebrenica felt that it was too little, too late?
As we all know, only a handful of political and military leaders and a handful of executioners, soldiers, were brought to justice, to Hague Tribunal, the UN Tribunal, because of its small capacity, and the majority of others will never face justice. So definitely justice is not done.
Does it offer you and your family any sort of closure, this moment?
His death is just biological necessity, and it doesn't bring to an end political project and the military project that created the legacy of genocide.
Hassan Hassanovic, a survivor of Srebrenica. I've been speaking to Julian Borger, senior international correspondent for The Guardian newspaper. He wrote The Butcher's Trail, a book about the hunt for Balkan war criminals, including Mladic. I asked him if he'd been surprised to hear about Ratko Mladic's death.
No, not long ago I'd been asked to refresh his obituary, so there was definitely an air of expectation that this would happen. Of course, his supporters and legal team were pressing repeatedly to allow him to be freed of grounds of ill health, but that was repeatedly turned down.
Was Ratko Mladic a man changed by his time in imprisonment?
Not as far as we know. I mean, he very much remained, if you like, true to himself. A lot of the war criminals from the Balkans who were locked up in The Hague found a way of living with each other, and would cook for each other and play football with each other. Ratko Mladic wasn't like that. He would not mix with Kosovars or Muslim Bosnians or Croats. He very much stayed with a small coterie of Serbs and remained a determined Serb nationalist who didn't believe in intermixing even in the confines of a jail.
Unrepentant, therefore, for his crimes?
Yes, I mean, as far as we know, and taking from his court appearances, absolutely unrepentant and dismissive of attempts to judge.
Tell me about his behaviour during the trial. You must have paid close attention to that at the time.
Yeah, he completely rejected the jurisdiction of the court and the authority of the court, defiant through to the end. He managed to evade justice for some 16 years on the run, where he was harboured by the Serbian military in one base after another, but eventually sort of ran out of protectors in Serbia, and ended up hiding out in the farmhouse of a cousin in a remote part of the country. And to the end, when they found him in this farmhouse, he said, well, you've got what you were looking for. But after that, was determined not to give an inch to his prosecutors in terms of admitting any sort of guilt whatsoever.
Do Serbian people generally acknowledge the crimes that he committed?
I would say generally not. There is an acceptance that war crimes were committed among many Serbs, but there's general denial that the Srebrenica, for example, amounted to a genocide. And really it depends who you're talking about. Serbs in Serbia proper have a more distant view of him than the Bosnian Serbs in the Serb half of Bosnia, where you will see in many towns stenciled pictures of him on walls. He remains very much, to the extent that Bosnian Serbs have an icon, Ratko Mladic is that icon.
And it isn't very long, is it, since Ratko Mladic topped a poll of Serbian national heroes? That says a lot about how he's viewed.
Yes, and also the kind of myth in which Bosnian Serb nationalism is couched, this sense of continual struggle with Serbia's enemies, which in their minds justifies almost anything.
You said he was very selective with his company in prison. Did he endear himself to anyone that he knew in his later years, in captivity, I mean?
Only, I think, the truly faithful among the Serb military who were in jail. He was not an easy man to get along with, even among his loyalists, even among his own family. His daughter committed suicide with his gun because she was so upset and torn about what he was doing. And he never acknowledged his responsibility in that, always blamed it on others, or was always in almost a permanent state of anger with his enemies and Serbian enemies.
Julian Borgia there of The Guardian. Now, in Germany, a party that wants to cut public funding for art it sees as anti-German and to teach children less about Hitler could soon take power in one eastern state. Regional governments hold significant sway in Germany, including running their culture and education systems, and the far-right Alternative für Deutschland party, or AfD, is way ahead in the polls in Saxony-Anhalt. From there, Jessica Parker reports.
A crowd cheers at an Alternative für Deutschland rally in the town of Querfurt. It's here in the region of Saxony-Anhalt that the far-right parties aiming to take power at a state level for the very first time. Among the hundreds and hundreds of people who are here at this event is a man who is enthusiastically waving around a large German flag, the black, red and gold. Now, Germany, traditionally not really seen as a flag-waving country, but one of the things the AfD is pushing at this election is the idea of national pride. The party here essentially claims that Germany's too consumed by its Nazi past, and that's eroded the country's confidence.
Der Zweite Weltkrieg geht uns nichts mehr an.
The Second World War has nothing to do with us anymore. That's gone.
Gerd is a 70-year-old AfD supporter. Attached to his mobility scooter is a small frayed German flag.
Wir müssen auf uns gucken jetzt, auf unsere Zeit.
We have to look out for ourselves, for our times, finally becoming the German people we once were, the land of poets, and thinkers.
Das Land der Dichter und Denker.
But today's German culture is also in the AfD's sights. Actors rehearse at a local theatre. The plot, a modern German twist on Romeo and Juliet. This playhouse, like most in Germany, is heavily state-funded. But the AfD has pledged in its election plans to defund what it calls anti-German art.
How can somebody say it's not German enough, and what does it mean?
Frank Martin Wittmeyer is the director at Eisleben Theatre.
This is playing with Nazi propaganda. Again.
Really?
Yes,
You think so?
yes, definitely. They are reproducing this kind of propaganda to threaten people.
The AfD are saying that German memory culture, they think it's sort of turned into a guilt complex.
You don't have to feel guilty, especially not born after the Second World War, but you have to deal with all of that to make it never happen again. That's part of our DNA in Germany.
I'm stood in a huge cemetery in the capital of Saxony-Anhalt, Magdeburg. It's raining, and I'm looking at rows and rows of German war graves. It's more than 80 years since the end of World War II. What you have now, today, in this election, is a political battle over German memory culture.
This is the BBC World Service, exploring how we live in a changing climate.
These were not forest fires. It was the buildings that were burning building to building to building.
I'm Jonathan Glancy, and I'm heading to Los Angeles to meet the architects working to rebuild a damaged city.
I couldn't recognize my neighborhood. The entire neighborhood was leveled.
A year and a half on from the firestorms which ravaged the city, I'll be speaking to the people building back their neighborhoods and creating homes which can survive in an age of fire.
We have to design our houses in ways that are going to contemplate that there will be fires.
How can architects protect a city from catastrophic fires?
I don't think that we're going to be in an environment where there won't be any more fires, but we're going to be able to adapt our way out of this.
LA Rising from the Ashes. To listen, search BBC The Documentary online or wherever you get your BBC podcasts.
And here's a reminder of our main story. Rescuers are looking for survivors after a massive flash flood on the Nepal-Tibet border that killed at least 350 people. Many hundreds more are missing. Pramod Pudel, who lives in the UK, is on his way to Nepal to search for his wife, parents and other relatives, none of whom he's heard from since this disaster struck the area where they live.
So I'm flying there at 8 o'clock today. I think it's going to be extremely difficult. I think there is about 10 kilometers of no road, so we're going to have to walk through the forest and stuff. That's going to be difficult, but my dad is on his own, so I'm going to have to go and see him.
One other headline, the Bosnian Serb commander Ratko Mladic, who oversaw the worst atrocities in Europe since the Second World War, is dead. I'm Paul Henley with NewsHour. Now, a military judge has ruled that the alleged mastermind of the 9/11 attacks, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, will stand trial in June 2028, nearly a quarter of a century after the attacks took place. He was captured in 2003. He's been held at the U.S. Naval Base, Guantanamo Bay, since 2006. Back in 2009, President George W. Bush told Fox News he'd personally authorized the so-called enhanced interrogation, many call it torture, the president claims it is legal, of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed.
He was the mastermind of the September the 11th, 2001 attacks that killed nearly 3,000 people on our soil. And I'm in the Oval Office, and I am told that we have captured Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, and the professionals believe he has information necessary to secure the country. So I asked what tools are available for us to find information from him, and they gave me a list of tools, and I said, are these tools deemed to be legal? And so we got legal opinions before any decision was made. And I think when people study the history of this particular episode, they'll find out we gained good information from Khalid Sheikh Mohammed in order to protect our country.
Carol Rosenberg covers Guantanamo Bay for the New York Times, and I asked her to fill in some of the background on the main suspect.
He grew up in Kuwait, studied engineering in the United States as a young man, and came from a family of jihadists, people who had joined the anti-Soviet jihad in Afghanistan. He is accused of coming up with this scheme that in the end killed nearly 3,000 people, using airplanes and essentially turning them into missiles, and pitching the idea to Osama bin Laden years before it happened. Osama bin Laden, it is said, signed on and helped fund this plot that turned into the 9/11 terror attacks.
He has admitted his guilt, hasn't he, along with 3 other defendants to be tried at the same time?
He has, in a hearing that was held with some military officers after years in the tortured, and he walked into a panel of U.S. military officers and was quoted as saying, "It was my plot from A to Z." He has, on other occasions, taken credit for it, and notably offered to plead guilty for his piece of the plot in exchange for a life sentence rather than go to this death penalty trial we are talking about now.
And that was rejected by federal appeal courts last year, is that right?
It was rejected by the Defense Secretary, Lloyd Austin, who heard about the deal made by his deputy and the prosecutors and said, "I want nothing to do with it." He said, "I want this man to go to trial." Lawyers took this to an appeals court and said it was a contract signed properly by the people who were assigned to make the deal, and we want it reinstated. And the appeals court said, no, the Defense Secretary had a right to walk away from the deal.
In a normal non-military court, the fact that all the defendants had been tortured to produce a confession would be relevant. In a military court, is it?
It is. It's very relevant. In fact, there's still ongoing litigation. One reason this has gone on for so many years on whether what they said in terms of confessions and bragging to federal investigators can be used against them. The judge has to decide whether these are admissible confessions. They're not signed. They're not taped. What it involves is FBI agents coming in and saying, "I sat across a table from them 4 years after the capture, and they admitted to their roles in it." A previous judge has already suppressed the confessions of one of the defendants, and this judge is deciding about 3 more. So the first step is we're going to hear whether this can be used against them. If it can't be used against them, prosecutors think they can use documents and other evidence to blame them for the plot and get them convicted at this military trial.
This man was captured in 2003. He's been in Guantanamo Bay since 2006. Why has it taken so long?
Those 3 years you mentioned, they took him from his capture in Pakistan, and rather than put him on an airplane and send him to New York and charge him with the crime, they disappeared him into the black sites of the CIA. He was put in a series of CIA prisons in Europe and Afghanistan and interrogated quite brutally, tortured, to give up information about Al-Qaeda's functioning and supposedly other plots that may have been in the works. That 3-year gap has created many issues. They are still trying to sort through to this day, and it's been represented by quite able U.S. American defense lawyers, civilian and military, who argue that they don't have the moral authority to put on a death penalty trial for a man who was tortured for years and kept outside the legal system. This has been playing out at Guantanamo in weekly hearings on and off again since they were charged in 2012. And this is the 5th judge to sit on this case.
And even now, when they announce the date for a trial, it's quite far into the future.
22 months from now, and I don't know that it's a sure thing at all, because there are more appeals to come and more pretrial litigation to come. They still haven't agreed to the contours of what evidence can be used against these 4 defendants. When they were brought to court in this case in 2012, there were 5 defendants. One of them has been ruled not mentally competent to stand trial, so they're down to 4. This has been a long process of figuring out how to have a military commissions trial in a set of circumstances that are unheard of in modern Western legal history.
How much secrecy would be involved in the trial if and when it does happen? Military courts are notoriously secretive, aren't they?
This is a hybrid of the military and federal courts, and they've spent these past years creating substitutions that shield original evidence from the CIA and from the prison. So what we see is a public forum of what the judge and prosecutors are allowing the world to see. You know, there are times when that court in its pretrial hearings goes into closure. The public can't watch it, the defendants can't watch it. It's only the government approved lawyers on both sides and the judge in there working out the details. It will be a military jury. They will have top secret security clearances, and they will probably get to see and hear things that certainly we, the public, won't know, and the defendants may know, but they may not hear.
Given all these details and caveats, plus the weight of American public opinion, what is your reflection on the possibility of an entirely fair trial?
I think that it'll be years and years before it is determined whether this trial would be fair. Even if they are convicted, there's a second phase that will argue over whether they should be punished with capital sentence or life imprisonment. And after that, there will be more appeals that decide whether this newly constituted court had enough protections, whether the evidence was too tainted. And so I think it's entirely likely that these men could die of natural causes at Guantanamo Bay while the appeals continue to determine whether it was fair or not.
Carol Rosenberg of the New York Times, ending NewsHour for a Thursday evening UK time. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.
This is the BBC World Service, opening a window into our world with in-depth storytelling.
If that's true, where did all this cash come from?
They simply introduced themselves as KGB officers. She was terrified.
This journey hasn't pushed us apart. It's brought us closer than we've ever been.
Seriously, it was mind-blowing.
The Documentary Podcast. To listen, search BBC The Documentary online or on the BBC World Service app. In 50 minutes, witness history.
With me, Jen Dale. I'm taking you back more than 30 years when a hurricane hit several islands in the Caribbean, causing widespread devastation.
Listen on the BBC World Service app. This is the BBC World Service, the world's radio station.
Next on the BBC World Service, it's Outlook with me, Jo Fidgen. Today, the story of how Ethiopian Mesfin Dola got his unusual name. Until he was 10, Mesfin was just like any other kid in his neighborhood, playing football, running away from cheaters. But then he fell sick.
I get the very frequent shortness of breath,
I cough constantly. At one point, there was a school running competition where I completely passed out. That's when we all took it very seriously.
It just got worse and worse.
I don't know what is going to happen, but I made a decision where I say, whether I die or live, I'm just gonna leave the village because nothing was changing.
He went to the city alone, expecting to die there, but instead met a man he calls his angel, got a new heart and a new name. His story follows the news.
BBC News with Sue Montgomery. As the search for survivors of Wednesday's catastrophic floods continues in northern Nepal and Tibet, officials have warned there's a threat of more flooding from a newly formed lake upstream. They say the body of water, formed by debris blocking a river, is rising and could breach. Nearly 400 people are confirmed to have died in Nepal, but more than 800 remain missing. The UN Secretary-General, Antonio Guterres, said aid is being mobilized.
I extend my deepest condolences to families of the victims and express my solidarity with all those affected. The United Nations is mobilizing supplies and humanitarian teams, and we pledge to support national efforts to deliver emergency aid and support.
Srijana Shrestha from BBC Nepal has joined the first responders who've been treating the injured.
I am here at Army Barrack, which has been turned into a healthcare center now. People are constantly being evacuated from the disaster zone from Rasua and Nuwakot district. The injured people have been getting primary healthcare here, and people with severe injuries have been referred to Trishuli Hospital, and some people who have sustained a large scale of injuries, they have been sent to hospitals in Kathmandu.
Hundreds are also missing in Tibet, although the Chinese authorities have only publicly confirmed 3 deaths. The former Bosnian Serb military leader Ratko Mladic has died. The 84-year-old was serving a life sentence in The Hague for genocide and crimes against humanity in the early 1990s. Known as the Butcher of Bosnia, Mladic oversaw the brutal siege of Sarajevo and the murder of thousands of Bosnian Muslim men and boys in Srebrenica. European football's governing body is preparing a criminal complaint against the FIFA president, Gianni Infantino. In court documents, UEFA says he tried to enrich himself and private investors through his failed plan to sell off stakes in tournaments, including the World Cup. President Trump has issued an executive order renaming Lake Ontario as Lake America. Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney reaffirmed that Canadians would continue to call the body of water Lake Ontario. Here's Jake Horton.
The lake sits on the border of Canada and the US, and the president has been threatening to change its name following an escalating trade war between the two countries. He made the announcement in the Oval Office on Thursday, saying it would be effective immediately, and he told reporters Canada is the worst to deal with on trade. There is a US government agency which typically oversees the use of geographic names by the federal government. Even if the name change is formally adopted in the US, other countries would not be required to adopt it. The president's latest order is reminiscent of his move last year to rename the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America.
BBC News. Malaysia says it's finalised the first phase of a voluntary repatriation programme that will see about 1,500 Myanmar refugees return home. Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim had earlier stated that Myanmar had agreed to repatriate 5,000 ethnic Rohingya refugees amid rising tensions with local communities in Malaysia. Police in Zambia say the opposition leader who came second in this month's disputed presidential election has been detained over allegations of treason. It's after President Hakainde Hichilema put pressure on the United Nations in Lusaka to hand him over. The BBC's Wahiga Maora reports.
Brian Mundubile and his running mate Makebi Zulu have handed themselves over to police for questioning over alleged threats to national security. The development comes amid growing political tensions following Zambia's disputed presidential election earlier this month. President Hakainde Hichilema was declared the winner of that election with about 60% of the vote, but Mundubile has rejected the result and said he would challenge it. The opposition has also accused authorities of using security agencies to put pressure on its leaders, allegations the government has rejected.
People living near the childhood home of David Bowie have objected to plans to turn it into a tourist attraction. The Heritage of London Trust has applied to the local council to restore the house, adding a visitor centre. Neighbours have raised concerns ranging from the number of visitors to the additional traffic. The Canadian actor Peter Cullen, who voiced Optimus Prime in Transformers and Eeyore in the Winnie the Pooh franchise, has died. He was 85. He played both animated roles for decades. He said Optimus Prime's measured, low-pitched voice was inspired by his older brother, who told him a real hero was strong enough to be gentle. BBC News.
Hello, welcome to Outlook from the BBC World Service. I'm Jo Fidgen. Ethiopian Mesfin Dollar was in his early teens.